Deep beneath the frozen soil of Alaska, a giant skeleton has been resting in silence for 70 million years. Snow has fallen on top of it season after season. Ice has crept over it and pulled back again more times than anyone can count. No human eye has ever seen it. No human hand has ever touched it. But today that is about to change, and with it an ancient story is about to come back to life. A story about a small, weak hatchling who almost did not survive his very first day. A story about loss, about betrayal, and about one dinosaur's fight to become the hero his family needed. Before this day is over, two children digging in the dirt will learn exactly what that hatchling became. A paleontologist named Zach drives deep into the Alaskan wilderness, his young nephew Ricky and niece Jade riding along in the back seat, both of them curious about what their uncle actually does for a living. Their parents are away on a trip to Europe, so Zach has brought the kids along with him on his latest dig instead of leaving them behind. The land stretches out cold, wide, and empty in every direction, hills and rock and frozen ground with barely another soul in sight. But somewhere beneath that frozen ground, it is hiding secrets that have waited millions of years to be found by exactly the right people. While Zach and Jade get to work at the dig site, Ricky slips away on his own to explore. Something small and black moves among the rocks nearby, and when Ricky turns to look, he finds himself staring at a bird unlike any he has ever seen. To his shock, the bird speaks. Before his eyes, it shifts and changes, transforming into a strange feathered creature that looks nothing like any bird alive today. The creature introduces himself as Alex and Alexornis, one of the very first birds to ever exist. Ricky can hardly believe what he is seeing, but Alex seems completely at ease with all of it, almost proud of the shocked reaction he is getting from a boy who has clearly never met a talking prehistoric bird before. He explains that he has traveled back 70 million years all the way to the Cretaceous period, and that he wants to tell Ricky the true story of his closest friend, a dinosaur whose bones are closer than Ricky could ever guess. Alex promises that by the time the story is over, Ricky will understand exactly why this particular dig site matters so much. That story begins 70 million years earlier, in a world of green forests and wide open plains that once covered this same patch of Alaska. It begins in a busy nesting ground filled with eggs as far as the eye can see, guarded closely by dinosaurs many times the size of anything alive today. Inside one shell, something stirs, and a tiny dinosaur finally breaks free into the world. His name is Patchy, a Pachyrhinosaurus, a plant-eating dinosaur known for the thick, bony bump on its nose and the wide, bony frill that spreads across the back of its head. Patchy hatches alongside a litter of brothers and sisters, but from the very beginning, it is clear that he is the smallest and weakest of them all, struggling just to keep up with his own siblings while they push past him toward the light. His older brother, Scowler, bigger and far more confident from the moment he hatches, wastes no time reminding Patchy exactly where he stands in the family. Watching over the entire herd is their father, Bulldust, a powerful and deeply respected leader who commands the loyalty of every dinosaur that follows him, and whose massive frame makes him one of the most important animals in the whole herd. It does not take long for danger to find the newborn Patchy. While the hatchlings rest close to their nest, curiosity gets the better of him, and he wanders just a little too close to the edge, drawn by something moving in the undergrowth. Hidden nearby, a sharp-eyed Troodon has been watching and waiting for exactly this kind of mistake, and a lone, unguarded hatchling is exactly the opportunity it needs. In a flash, it lunges forward and clamps onto Patchy's frill, dragging him away from the safety of his family and back toward the tree line. Patchy struggles and cries out with everything he has, but he is far too small and weak to fight back on his own. Just when it looks like the tiny hatchling's story is about to end, before it even begins, Bulldust comes charging in with the ground shaking beneath him. The massive Pachyrhinosaurus slams into the Troodon and drives it off, saving his youngest son's life in the process. The attack leaves Patchy with a permanent hole torn straight through his frill, a scar he will carry for the rest of his life. Watching quietly from above, Alex senses something different about this small, overlooked hatchling. Despite being the runt of the litter, and despite everyone else already writing him off, Alex has a feeling deep down that Patchy is destined for something much greater than anyone around him realizes. Shaken but alive, Patchy wanders off alone into the forest that borders the nesting ground. For the rest of the day, he explores on his own, taking in the strange new world around him. By the time evening falls, tired and a little wiser, he finds his way back home and rejoins his family safe once again. The weeks and months that follow are filled with growth and hard lessons. Patchy slowly learns the ways of the herd, how to find food, how to stay close to the group, and how to watch for danger, even as Scowler continues to tease and belittle him at every opportunity, never letting him forget his place at the bottom of the pecking order. Not everything about this time is difficult, though. During one of the herd's gatherings, Patchy meets a young female Dinosaurs named Juniper, and the two hit it off almost instantly, playing and exploring together whenever they get the chance. It is obvious that Juniper likes Patchy just as much as he likes her hole in the frill and all, but before the two of them can grow any closer, Juniper's herd packs up and begins its migration south ahead of schedule, leaving Patchy standing alone and heartbroken as he watches her disappear over the horizon with no idea when or if he will ever see her again. Not long after Bulldust leads his own herd on the very same journey south, a great migration the Dinosaurs make again and again as the seasons turn, following the same ancient paths their ancestors have followed for generations. Patchy, Scowler, and the rest of the herd travel across frozen plains, through rushing rivers, and beneath dense forest canopies, facing down hunger, cold, and predators the entire way, while sharing the land with other strange and massive creatures of the ancient Cretaceous world all around them. With every migration, Patchy grows a little bigger and a little braver, even if he still lags behind his brother in size and strength, and even if Scowler never lets him forget it. On one particular journey, everything changes in an instant. The herd is moving through a thick forest when a violent storm rolls in overhead without warning. Thunder rips across the sky, rain lashes down through the trees, and a sudden bolt of lightning slams into a nearby tree with a deafening crack. Within moments, the dry forest is swallowed by flames that spread faster than anyone can outrun. Panic tears through the herd as dinosaurs scatter in every direction, desperate to escape the smoke and the spreading fire, families and friends losing sight of each other in the chaos. Sensing an opportunity in all the confusion, a pack of Gorgosaurus led by a terrifying hunter named Gorgon begins to close in through the smoke. While the herd is scattered blind and choking on smoke, the predators strike without mercy, picking off dinosaurs one after another before they even know what has found them. In the confusion, Patchy and Scowler become separated from the rest of the herd and find themselves cornered by Gorgon himself, trapped with nowhere left to run. The enormous predator closes in through the smoke, ready to finish them both off in one strike. But just as Gorgon prepares to attack, Bulldust bursts through the flames to defend his sons, putting himself directly between Gorgon and his boys. He fights with everything he has, roaring and charging with all the strength a father can find for his children, but even his strength is no match for Gorgon's raw power. Patchy and Scowler can do nothing but watch in horror, frozen in place, as Gorgon overwhelms their father and kills him right in front of them, a moment that will haunt both brothers for the rest of their lives. When the fire finally burns itself out, and the smoke begins to clear, Patchy and Scowler find what remains of their shattered herd grieving, and much smaller than before, now led by Major, once Bulldust's fiercest rival for leadership. Neither brother has any say in the matter, and both must learn to follow a leader who is not their father, a hard adjustment for two hatchlings who have just lost everything they once counted on. Not long after, the battered herd crosses paths with Juniper's herd, and the two groups merge into one larger family as they continue their long march south together. Slowly, life returns to something resembling normal, even though the loss of Bulldust never fully leaves either brother. Season after season, the combined herd repeats its journey north and south, facing down predators' hunger and the unforgiving land together, while Patchy, Scowler, and Juniper grow up side by side within the very same herd, their bond only growing stronger with time. Years later, during another migration, Gorgon's pack strikes again, catching the herd completely off guard in the middle of a crossing. In the panic that follows, Patchy, Scowler, and Juniper are knocked off their feet by the stampede and swept away by a rushing river before anyone can stop them. The current drags all three of them downstream over rapids and rocks and out into the open ocean, while Alex flies overhead, frantically trying to keep track of them from above and calling out to make sure they stay together. Eventually, exhausted, battered, and gasping for breath, the three wash up on a distant, unfamiliar beach with no idea where the rest of the herd has gone. When a passing herd of Edmontosaurus comes into view searching for food, Scowler abandons his younger brother and Juniper without a second thought, choosing to follow the other herd instead and leaving the two of them stranded and alone. Left to fend for themselves, Patchy and Juniper have to make their way through unfamiliar forest on their own, relying only on each other to survive. After a long and difficult journey filled with uncertainty, certainty, they finally manage to track down their herd and reunite with Scowler once again, though the memory of being left behind does not fade easily. More years pass, and more migrations follow one after another, each one a little easier than the last, as the herd grows used to how quick and clever Patchy can be. Patchy, Scowler, and Juniper are no longer the young dinosaurs they once were. They have grown into full-sized adults, each of them shaped by everything they have survived together, from fire to flood to loss. When Scowler finally comes of age, he challenges Major directly for control of the herd, and after a fierce struggle for dominance, he wins, becoming its new leader in Major's place. Under the herd's strict rules, the leader claims the right to choose his mate, and without hesitation, Scowler chooses Juniper for himself. For Patchy, who has loved and cared for her since they were both young hatchlings exploring the world together, it is a devastating blow, one made worse by the fact that he can do nothing about it. Scowler's leadership is tested almost immediately. Trying to save time on the long migration, he makes the reckless choice to lead the entire herd out onto the surface of a frozen lake instead of going around it. Halfway across, the ice begins to crack and groan under their combined weight, and panic spreads fast as dinosaurs start slipping and falling through the breaking surface into the freezing water below. Scowler freezes, unsure what to do as his herd begins to fall apart around him. It is Patchy, not Scowler, who thinks fast and acts, calling out directions and guiding the majority of the herd safely off the ice and onto solid ground before the disaster can claim any more lives. Instead of gratitude, Scowler feels only humiliation. Watching his own herd turn to his younger brother for guidance right in front of him fills him with jealousy and rage that has clearly been building for years. Convinced that Patchy is secretly plotting to steal his position as leader and take Juniper away from him, Scowler stops seeing his brother as family and starts seeing him only as a threat to be dealt with. Without warning, he challenges Patchy to a battle for control of the herd, right there in front of everyone, leaving Patchy no real choice but to accept, even though he never wanted this fight in the first place. The fight is brutal and one-sided from the very first clash. Scowler is far bigger and far stronger than Patchy, years of size advantage finally showing themselves in full, and it takes almost no time for him to gain the upper hand. He slams his younger brother to the ground again and again, driving him back toward the edge of the clearing, and finally traps him helplessly beneath a fallen tree with no way to break free. Standing over his beaten brother, Scowler coldly disowns Patchy in front of the entire herd, refusing to even acknowledge him as family any longer. He orders Juniper and every other dinosaur to move on without him, leaving Patchy behind, trapped, injured, and alone to face whatever fate awaits him. Pinned beneath the tree and unable to move, Patchy watches helplessly as his family walks away and disappears into the distance without looking back. Scavengers begin to circle nearby, drawn in by the smell of blood, sensing an easy meal within reach. For a long moment, Patchy stops struggling, entirely exhausted and heartbroken, ready to accept that this is how his story ends, alone and forgotten under a fallen tree. But Alex refuses to give up on his friend. He stays by Patchy's side when everyone else has left and reminds him of his father Bulldust and of how Bulldust died protecting the sons he loved more than his own life without a moment of hesitation. Alex tells Patchy that if he is going to die today lying there and waiting for scavengers is not the way to do it. He should at least die fighting for something that truly matters, the same way his father did. The words cut through Patchy's despair and reached something deep inside him, something he thought the fight with Scowler had already broken. With new strength and a new sense of purpose, Patchy finally breaks free from beneath the fallen tree and fights off the scavengers closing in around him, refusing to let them have the meal they came for. Bruised, exhausted, and running on nothing but determination, he does not stop moving until he finally catches up with the rest of the herd far ahead of him. But what he finds waiting for him there is far worse than anything he has faced so far. The herd has wandered straight into a dangerous stretch of land known among the dinosaurs as Ambush Alley, a place where Gorgosaurus attacks happen again and again without warning, claiming more victims than any other stretch of the migration route. Gorgon and his pack have already struck, tearing through the herd's defenses, and Gorgon himself now has Scowler pinned to the ground, completely helpless in almost the exact same position Bulldust was in on the day he died. Gorgon is only seconds away from finishing the job, and this time, there is no father left to step in and save him. Without hesitation, Patchy charges straight into the fight and draws Gorgon's attention away from his brother, refusing to let history repeat itself in front of him a second time. The massive predator turns on Patchy instead, overpowering him with terrifying strength and leaving him bloodied and badly hurt within moments. Watching his younger brother take the hit meant for him, Scowler finally sees, clearly realizing at last what his cruelty has cost him and how badly he has treated the very brother who once saved the entire herd on the frozen lake. Desperate Scowler begs Patchy to save himself and lead the others to safety, while there is still time insisting that he is not worth it. But Patchy refuses to abandon him, not after everything they have already survived together. Instead, he rallies the herd to stand its ground and fight together to save Scowler, no matter what it costs any of them. The herd turns as one against Gorgon's pack, fighting back with everything they have: horns and frills crashing against claws and teeth, while Patchy faces Gorgon head-on in one final desperate battle for his family. Gorgon fights with brutal ferocity, snapping and slashing at Patchy again and again, but this time Patchy refuses to back down or run no matter how much damage he takes. He plants his feet and holds his ground, drawing on every ounce of strength he has left in his battered body. In the middle of the struggle, Gorgon lunges forward, and his arm becomes caught in the very hole torn through Patchy's frill all those years ago, back when he was nothing more than a helpless hatchling being dragged away by a Troodon. It is the same scar Alex once called a sign of destiny, and now it becomes a weapon. Patchy twists with everything he has left and snaps Gorgon's arm, and the great predator roars out in pain and shock. Before Gorgon can recover, Patchy slams his head forward with crushing force, driving his thick bony nose straight into Gorgon's jaw and knocking several teeth loose in the impact. Gorgon staggers backward off balance and broken, and finally turns and flees in defeat. All around them, the rest of the herd finishes driving off what remains of the Gorgosaurus pack, forcing the predators to retreat for good. In this single fight, Patchy has avenged his father's death and saved his brother's life at the very same time, closing the circle that began the day Bulldust died protecting him. In the aftermath of the battle, Scowler looks at his younger brother with nothing but respect and shame for how he once treated him. The jealousy of the past finally burned away. The two brothers finally reconcile, and Scowler willingly steps aside, handing leadership of the herd over to Patchy for good, the same brother he once trapped and left for dead. Patchy rises to become the herd's new leader, respected now by every dinosaur that once overlooked him, with Juniper standing proudly by his side as his mate at last. Years pass peacefully after that. Patchy and Juniper start a family of their own, welcoming new eggs, and a hatchling they name Alex Jr., in honor of the loyal friend who never once gave up on Patchy even at his lowest and most hopeless moment. Scowler stays close to the family too, settling into his new role as a devoted uncle watching over Alex Jr., the same way Bulldust once watched over him. Back in the present day, Ricky stands frozen in the Alaskan cold, taking in every word of Alex's incredible story, hardly able to believe that any of it happened right here beneath his feet. Moved by everything he has just heard, he walks back toward Zach and Jade, carrying something small and heavy in his hand, a single fossilized tooth belonging to Gorgon himself, worn smooth by 70 million years underground. It turns out that Zach and Jade have already spent the day carefully excavating the ancient skeleton of Gorgon buried in the ground nearby all along, completing a story that began 70 million years ago in fire and fear, and finally ends right here in the quiet Alaskan dirt. A small dinosaur once left for dead, mocked by his own brother, and abandoned beneath a fallen tree, grew into a legend that outlived even the very ground he is buried in.